With that backdrop, there was this moment, I remember clearly at one of the summits, where it felt like things tipped.
The initial cohort felt almost, there was a familial feel to it. It felt like a family. There was a small amount of us. We knew everybody. We had a very good sense of where they were at and where they were going, and so it had such a nice communal feel to it. And that has continued by bringing in additional leaders and then making sure that the cohorts are only of a certain size, so you get that same feeling. Currently with my role as a mentor, I get that same feeling each month when we meet with our leaders in the greater cohort, where I actually know what's going on with people outside of just the individual that I'm mentoring.
The first cohort, first it was nerve-wracking to see who was going to come in. I even thought, oh no, they're going to bring in some incredible leaders and they'll realize I'm not at their level. You know, things like that we experienced. Actually, the more I've talked to other leaders, everybody was kind of comparing themselves to each other. Like, oh, that person really knows what they're doing and I don't. Until we became so close and realized that's not what it was about. It wasn't about trying to prove anything. It was about coming together to see how God could use what He had planted in our hearts, in our countries, to grow His kingdom. And so we became a really close-knit community. I see those people show up at Summit every year, and it's my family showing up. You know, you get so excited. It's not like just a random person you've seen every once in a while. It is really an opportunity to connect with valuable people that have spoken into our hearts and our lives, that have prayed for each other in the hard moments, that have celebrated the wins, and have also spoken into the hard moments.
There was definitely a time at which you felt like, hey, the pendulum has swung in our favor. And I think referencing back to Pitt and several of the other initial members there, that was when you saw their growth, not just from a financial standpoint, but in other areas, establishing churches, discipleship groups, things of that nature. AJ is another prime example of that. When you started to see that happening, you felt that we are starting to accomplish the mission that we've set out to do.
Branches early on was such a struggle. I mean, it was like pushing everything uphill. Everything felt like this massive risk. And so you knew that God had to show up like every day, or else the whole thing was gonna fall apart. It was always on this like razor's edge, like, are we gonna run out of money? Like, are people gonna kick us out? Are they gonna understand the vision? Are they gonna read the papers we give them? So everything that we did felt like this, like, you know, massive risk. With that backdrop, there was this moment, I remember clearly at one of the summits, where it felt like things tipped. And you could sense that relationships were clicking and people were enjoying each other and kind of leaning in and saying like, wow, really? Is this that easy? You know, and they started to want to be part of it as opposed to trying to convince people to join. And you start to see that cohesion and that stickiness start to happen. And once that happened, then things really started to move. So I think it's been a combination of, man, I did not realize this was going to be this hard. And then when that flip happened, it was almost as if things got exponentially easier.
You know, between the staff and the leaders and the mentors and the ambassadors, everybody involved is just a very special community. And I like calling it a community because that's one of the things that I didn't see coming, was this sense of community that the leaders have around the world. Even though they're spread out around the world, they can, in an instant with today's technology, share a prayer request or a praise item, and instantly they have 10 or more leaders responding to that, saying, hey, we're there with you, we're praying for you, we're celebrating with you, whatever it is. That I didn't anticipate at the level that it is. And so it's really very, very special to see that.
I think we're at the stage right now where it feels as if Branches is growing much, much faster than we would have initially expected. And it's a ton of fun. 3 cohorts in, hitting our 4th one now. I don't want to say it's easy, that's not the word, but it's much more predictable. We understand what we're doing. The team kind of gets it, and they're far more mature than they used to be. It's a ton of fun.